Singapore will make history with next year's Southeast Asian Games by being the first host of the Games to test athletes' blood for doping. It's an effort which will cost the country about $500,000. Similar tests were conducted at the 2010 Youth Olympic Games held here. But what will the tests involve, and how can they prevent athletes from doping to gain an unfair advantage? In this week's Spotlight, we'll explore this dark side of professional sport. An adrenaline rush, endurance, speed. These are what draw people to professional sport. But there is a darker side to it. The sports story of 2013 was of 7-time Tour de France winner Lance Armstrong's admission that his victories had been fueled by drugs. The American was regarded as the greatest cyclist of all time. Irish sports journalist David Walsh played a major role in exposing Armstrong. He was in Singapore recently for a conference, and he said the scandal brought to the fore the critical need for anti-doping efforts in sport.
You want credibility, you embrace the need for anti-doping. And every time the testers come, you welcome him into your home. Do it like it's a defense system. This is what protects you from some guy cheating and taking your gold medal.
Closer to home, 2 Indonesian swimmers were banned for 2 years after being found guilty of doping in March. At last year's SEA Games in Myanmar, 2 athletes from the host nation and 1 from Brunei were found to have taken illegal substances. And Singapore, which will host the SEA Games in June next year, has not been spared. There were 11 documented cases of doping in Singapore sports in the last 14 years, and most involved bodybuilding. Steroids and human growth hormone, or HGH, are commonly used by athletes in a sport where big is definitely better. These drugs help to build up tissue and form new muscles. HGH in particular is touted as efficient and hard to detect and doesn't come with major side effects if used properly. EPO, or erythropoietin, is the most well-known performance-enhancing drug. Drug cheats use it so that their bodies can take in more oxygen, which lets them excel at strenuous sporting activities.
The decision to do blood was based on the fact that nowadays there are possibilities of athletes taking or using substances that cannot be detected from urine testing. For example, they may be using blood transfusions, what we call blood doping. Or they may be using artificial oxygen carriers which are put into the blood. Those you cannot detect from urine testing. You have to do blood.
Athletes here who flout anti-doping rules face punishments ranging from warnings to lifetime bans.
From the few cases that we've had, it seems like there are some caught only for inadvertent doping. So for those, they are more forthcoming and they give you reasons that it could be supplements they've taken unknowingly.
This allegedly happened in Singapore's latest doping case. Silat exponent Saida Said was banned for 2 years last year after the authorities found a weight loss stimulant in her urine. She was competing at the National Pencak Silat Championships. Saida blamed it on a Malay traditional medicine her mother had given her to help treat an injury. Previously, the Singapore Silat Federation's anti-doping education efforts only covered national athletes. Since the Saida incident, however, this coverage has been extended to junior age groups as well as club athletes. This is to ensure that the anti-doping message is drilled home from a young age. The Federation believes blood testing will deter would-be cheats.
I think this is good, not to catch any athlete, but this is to deter them from using drugs and also deter them from thinking that they can cheat in a way that to survive. Urine tests, they may say that the athlete will tamper with it and whatever, but for blood, it sees very clearly. Whatever drugs you're using, they can detect.
It's fair. It's because, with this testing, it will discourage the athlete not to take illegal stuff to enhance their performance, so it will be a fair game during the SEA Games.
Here, an organization called Anti-Doping Singapore continually works to ensure athletes are familiar with the rules. Now, it's gearing up for what is set to be a massive testing operation at next year's SEA Games. For this, it requires 400 volunteers. Before a blood test starts, athletes must check the test kit to ensure that the items inside have not been tampered with.
Once the athlete completes the checking of the test kits, the blood collection can begin. It's similar to your regular blood collection process. Either 6 or 10 milliliters of blood is drawn depending on what the testing authority is looking out for. The blood collected will be split into 2 samples so that if the first comes back positive, the second can be used for confirmation.
Once the samples are taken, the athlete puts them into containers before placing them in non-resealable bags. These are kept in a box which is then flown to an accredited laboratory in New Delhi where the blood is tested for banned substances. The whole process can be completed in about 48 hours. At the same time, administrators here will be able to track the entire process online.
As part of the anti-doping process, administrators will have to log on to a system by the World Anti-Doping Agency. It's a database that allows users to coordinate testing as well as retrieve test results. In this instance, the athlete in question tested positive for banned substances.
Advanced technology means drug cheats are unlikely to get away with doping. But according to Walsh, Armstrong escaped detection for so long because people wanted him to keep winning. The journalist believes that will not happen here.
It will be Singapore that will organise the anti-doping at the Southeast Asia Games. But it's got to say to its people who are conducting anti-doping, now within our organisation, you are an independent republic. You don't have to ask anybody before declaring a sample positive. You must do your job, even if the results are embarrassing for us.
On the global front, drug busters have a new weapon, the athlete biological passport. The passport contains an athlete's profile obtained from his blood and urine samples. When an athlete undergoes a test, the samples are compared against his profile. Irregularities can then be detected. At home, ADS says Singapore has no plans to incorporate the use of the passport in the near future, but it will monitor the situation among athletes who may be at risk and react accordingly.